I took my running shoes off.
Welcome everyone to Learning Labs for April 7th, 2024. Today we have a panel hosted by Richard Snyder. He is going to be talking about distinguished clubs, and he has a group of panelists who are in clubs that are heading down that path towards distinguished. So let me introduce here Richard Snyder. Take it away.
Thank you, Heather, and I am honored to serve on such an esteemed panel. I'm going to introduce the panelists, and then I will tell a little bit about where we're going. And this will be in alphabetical order by last name. Edie Ferrari D'Angelo has been a member of the Anaheim Breakfast Club since 1987 and the past district governors Directors Club since 2009. Edie is the Vice President of Education and Secretary for the Anaheim Club and President of the past District Governors Directors Club. Both clubs have achieved President's Distinguished every year since 2006. Edie was a district governor in Founders District from 2010 to 2011, and that year her team led the district to Distinguished, ranked number 13 in the world. She also served as the Region 10 advisor in 2012, served on the board of directors from 2014 to 2016, and currently serves on the District 100 Advisory Committee. She was awarded the Toastmasters Presidential Citation in 2021. David Flores, and welcome, Edie. Thank you. David Flores is a California native growing up in Anaheim, California, graduate of Anaheim High School in 1973, and was active in sports, having played for the legendary coach Claire Van Horbeck. I hope I pronounced that correctly. He coached football for 20 years, including at his alma mater and various high schools in Orange County and Inland Empire, along with 3 years at Pomona College, the Claremont Colleges. He is currently retired after 48 years in aerospace manufacturing, where he made parts for commercial and military aircraft and for the space program. Currently completing 40 years with Toastmasters International, serving in many capacities at the club level, and served as Program Quality Director for District 100, 2018-19, and District 100's third District Director from 2019 to 20. And welcome, David. Our next panelist, Crystal Gillespie, joined the Living Spaces training team in September 2021. Already a distinguished Toastmaster, she knew Living Spaces held a club that struggled to maintain meetings after the shutdown. Her goal was to relaunch the club and help mentor a successful year. So far, I believe that goal has been accomplished. Her current path is leadership excellence, and she's rounding the corner to completing her level 3 project. Congratulations, Crystal, and thank you for joining us. Welcome. And our fourth panelist, Lonnie Huff, is an IT professional specializing in web development and user experience. Over the past 25 years, she has helped support and develop a number of online communities, including gaming guilds, by blogging communities, and Toastmasters clubs. She has a variety of nerdy interests, I think we all do, including Dungeons and Dragons, video games, and cosplay. So welcome all. I picked all of you for special reasons, and I know two of you, and look forward to getting to know a couple others better. But we have an advanced club represented today, a corporate club, a specialty club, and then two regular clubs, an evening club and a morning club. So I think we've kind of hit everywhere, I hope. And a wonderful panel. About myself, I've been Toastmasters since 1991. I served as District 12's governor, 2000 to 2001. We were distinguished. And I served on the board of directors from 2007 to 2009. I've served in a number of chair capacities, new club chair, club coach chair several times, and I'm serving as District 100's distinguished club chair. Hence, today we are going to be talking about distinguished clubs. Now, I have chosen some questions for each individual. If you have something that, wow, I have something to add, please raise your electronic hand and I'll call on you. But don't feel like, oh, I need to add, because that's one of my pet peeves I shared with you, is a moderator asking a question and then everybody responding. And a lot of it tends to be the same old, same old. So I have questions for each of you, and I have some that are generic that anybody can feel. But please, if you have something to add, by all means, raise your electronic hand. And our guests as well, if you have something germane, we'd love to hear you. And I'll probably have the last 15 to 20 minutes questions from our audience. And hope, by all means, if you have comments before then, please raise your hand. So my first question goes to Crystal. Living Spaces has added 24 new members this Toastmaster year. The club started the year with 8 members. They are now up to 30. So tell us what Living Spaces has done this year to have so many new members.
Thank you so much, Richard. I think we've just created a lot of excitement. This is new to a lot of our corporate office. Before, I think the Toastmasters group focused on our learning and development team and our HR business partners. So when we've opened up the doors for the rest of our corporate team to be able to learn and gain education and brush up on their leadership presentation skills, but also level up. This is an opportunity for a lot of our frontline members that don't see growth, or they interview for positions that are that next level and they get turned down for minimal things like not being able to speak well. Here's where we can help them. So I think we've created excitement in an atmosphere that allows them to groom those skills to level up, and that's been working for us.
And I know you're in a corporate environment. Has management come strongly supported the Toastmaster Club, maybe more so than the past? Or have you had open houses, or just people are just word of mouth?
Both. So absolutely, management is very supportive. It's funny to see that management will send their direct reports, and those direct reports come back and they say, well, you should come too. So that's a lot of fun to see. We did have our first official open house. Julie Brody came as our guest speaker and did an excellent job just representing District 100 and giving a bigger picture to what else is out there. That's something our club is not quite exposed to, and we're hoping to turn that corner this next year so they can see how much further they can go with this development.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Crystal. My next question is for Edie. Almost the exact opposite. I know from talking to you that your club was hit hard with the recent membership renewals. I believe you mentioned that they had 12 renew from about 18, so they're down several. And I know you're a very experienced Toastmaster, and Anaheim Breakfast Club has been President's Distinguished, oh my gosh, I think almost 20 years in a row. So what is the game plan? And what would you suggest to other clubs that are experiencing similar, a lot of clubs at this time? Oh my gosh, we thought we were online to be distinguished or select or presidents, and now we're down 10 members or so, for example.
Thanks, Richard. Hi, everybody. I think the first thing we want to do in a situation like I'm facing with, we'll call it ABC. We're a Tuesday morning, 7 a.m. club. So you can see not everyone is able or willing to be up early enough to jump online and be in a meeting. But there are enough people out there because the club's been around since 1965. So there are definitely people out there who like a morning club, as I do. The question you might want to ask yourselves, members of the club and the leadership.
Hi, Lilia.
What is causing the loss? What's causing the decline? Because we were so strong for so long. And I think for us, it started when we were forced to go online because of the pandemic. We adapted, we adjusted, and for the first year, we stayed pretty strong, even the second year. But all of a sudden, I think we are facing some Zoom fatigue. And it's such a strange conundrum because the people express, I want to be in person. I want us to meet in person again. When can we do that? And we met at the same place every year for years. It was a wonderful place that was very supportive of us, stored all of our materials. We had a beautiful private room. Breakfast was affordable, and people missed that. Well, that restaurant went out of business. So in addition to having people asking to go back in person, now we couldn't find a venue that was open at 7 a.m. in the Anaheim area. And if they did open at 7, then were they affordable? We have a lot of things going against us. And as this is all happening and we're trying to get back in person, when we finally found a place, only about 6 people showed up. We tried it again, only 4 showed up. Now restaurants have minimum requirements. They have to make their money, and they're not going to give a private room with Wi-Fi and service to only 4 people. They can put you in a booth somewhere and let you have a little private meeting, but that doesn't work for our club. So that happens. Okay, we decided we're going to go back to Zoom strictly, and we're still losing people. So we have that combination of Zoom fatigue. Because we're a morning club, we are dealing with people with careers. Now they have meetings to go to. Their job situation has changed, and they can no longer meet at 7 o'clock. There's just this perfect storm has happened to the Anaheim Club. And now we're down to 12 paid members, maybe 6 or 7 show up for a meeting, and it's our core. So right now, as much as we want to build, we are focused on keeping our core strong and getting them to want to stay, because with 6 of us at a meeting, guess how many duties each of us has to hold to get that meeting going? Now we're down to 1 speech and 1 evaluator a meeting, because there's all those other things to do. I don't want people to burn out when I schedule the meetings. So really, this is the first time I've ever faced anything like this. And I know you need to do promotions. We do use Facebook and LinkedIn, and we advertise our meetings. We put after meeting updates, summaries. This is what we did, and this is what we learned. Anything to get people interested. We're doing all those things, but at this point in time, we're not getting the results that we want. So my fear is the members remaining are going to lose some heart. And so I wish I could come to you with a perfect strategy to fix that. I would like nothing more than offer you that this afternoon, but it's a cautionary tale. Just because we've been President's Distinguished every year since 2006 doesn't mean that's going to continue. So we have to continually work to make the club one that offers quality meetings, that makes people feel warm and welcome and needed, and it always got their mind and their focus on meeting the needs of the members. So I wish I had happier news to share with you, Richard. But
Okay.
the other club's
I'll
doing
share
quite
some
well.
ideas in a little bit, but thank you. Thank you, Edie. And thank you for sharing. And it's true. Here's a club, almost 20 years, President's Distinguished, and with the Zoom fatigue and everything else that's going on with restaurants, we're experiencing a lot of clubs, even very experienced clubs like ABC are having some difficulties. Crystal, I didn't ask you, but is your club in person, hybrid, or Zoom?
We are hybrid.
Okay. And it seemed obviously is working. Do most of your members attend in person or both, or?
Most attend in person. The only time we have digital attendees is usually when they're working from home or they're sick from home.
Okay. And is it open to the community, or is it strictly a corporate club?
Strictly corporate.
Strictly corporate. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to switch a little bit. David has a different perspective. He has been a member of Toastmasters going on 40 years now. He is active in the oldest club, well, number 2 in the world, Anaheim Club 2. And I visited that club early on. It was one of the first clubs to go hybrid, and is now basically in person only. They do have it available, but I think it's rare when anybody appears on screen, and mostly for members that can't make that particular meeting. So David, can you share with us? I'm sure there's some people who are right now in clubs that are meeting strictly online, but share with us the decision to go hybrid. And I thought that club really had it put together. You had a giant screen, and then the decision basically now to just go in person only. David.
Yeah, let's do it.
And how's that helping membership?
Let me do a quick sound check, because every time I come on a different Zoom meeting, it's like something's wrong. I'm okay today.
I can hear you.
Okay, great. This morning, the Zoom, it was the opposite. Yes, we actually, we were very fortunate. We get pretty much the opposite of what happened with Edie's club. We were able to get into our old location that we had prior to COVID, which is the Dale McIntosh Center. And that has been probably our biggest success, is that we've had a great location to begin with, which has always been a challenge. Even before COVID, we know that a lot of clubs were always bouncing around because they had location issues and stuff. So the foundation for us is actually our location is really a strong location, great place to meet. Our original idea of going hybrid was once things had eased up in the Orange County area, we decided as a club to let's try the hybrid meeting and see how it goes. And the only reason we decided to go hybrid is because we knew that, and I knew from experience that in the past when we had our normal, online only access, and we had posted our link in our website for the free toast, that's not uncommon for people to say, hey, I think I want to join one of these Toastmasters meetings. And they hesitate and they hesitate and they wait and they wait, because the fear factor drops in. But that's why we decided, well, let's go hybrid. We'll keep we could have gone strictly in person, but we decided let's go hybrid in the event that we had somebody who went to the website maybe 2-3 months ago and finally got the courage to say, let's go see that club. And had we had just closed down our link altogether, they would have missed us. So that was a primary reason for being a hybrid club, is because we wanted to make sure that people who had seen us before as an online club still had our access to see us. Now that was going on 2 years ago, probably. And we decided that we were getting very few people online. And a lot of the inquiries we were getting from people who linked in through the Toastmasters program or called or contacted me, the first questions they are asking is, are you an in-person club? And we say, yes, we are. So I think, like Edie had mentioned, I think the burnout is starting to exist. And the success for the in-person clubs was that there's a different energy that's there. You have that more personal energy, which would help grow Toastmasters International in the first place, I think, is the impersonal contact. The online access is good. It's a different profession. It's a different aspect of communications. But I think that what's helping Club 2 continually grow, when you have guests come in all the time and join our club, is that number one, we are in person, and there's that energy that we have as a club that really, once you get, for any club that's struggling, if you're down into the single digits, it's a challenge. But have faith, once you get into the double digits, if you have 10 or 12, 13 people there, 14 people there, that energy starts to build and people want to be a part of that. And once you get to that point, it starts to grow. It's almost like it just magnifies itself. Next thing you know, you got 16 or 17 with them walk in and they go, wow. The next thing you know, you got 20, 22, 23. I think our roster now stands at 22. And we have guests coming in that are looking at our meeting. Our last meeting last Thursday, we had to pull some extra chairs in, and we had one of our members sit on the side, and the energy was fantastic. And that's what's really driving it. And of course, obviously, keep the strict format of Toastmasters is that pie. Do your pie, be organized, have that agenda. That is a real key factor. I think people really starting to understand that having a structure. And when you mention military, that's what they love, structure. And people in general love structure. And I think what happens in the Zoom location is that there tends to be more of a less structured meeting format. People are more relaxed. They're sitting in their shirt and they have their pajama bottoms on. And when you're in person, that doesn't happen anymore. So there's a more structure to it, and there's a more energy to it. So that's what's helped Club 2, I think, become and maintain our success so far. And we were striving. We're just a few points short of President's Distinguished. And I'm looking at our DCPs and stuff and looking at what we have in our roster. There's a good, strong point where we will make President's Distinguished again this year.
All right. Thank you, David. And I'll add, I love the camaraderie. I think a lot of it is because you're meeting in person. I visited the club in December and they had a potluck, and that goes a long way toward keeping the members happy, and becomes more almost like a family atmosphere. So thank you, David. Next question for Lonnie. Dungeons and Toast is actually the newest club represented today. The club was formed in 2021, I believe in March 2021. And even that 3 months, they were select distinguished, and they've been president's distinguished every year since. And that's very untypical of new clubs. A lot of times new clubs we see do this and then and they struggle. That club has not. They have been select distinguished, presidents distinguished every year since. So share with us what is working so well with Dungeons and Toast, and their membership is also, I believe, very close to 30, and it has been over 30. So they're obviously doing something right there.
Thank you for the question, Richard. We are, as you mentioned in the introduction, a specialty interest club focused on tabletop role-playing games. That means that the people that join our club tend to be gamers. As a result, knowing that going into it, we decided to gamify, in other words, add a layer of additional achievement and accomplishment for our members above and beyond what was provided with pathways. Basically, anything that assisted our club in reaching its DCP goals, we created an incentive for members to do those things. We reward them with points every time they get a pathways level. We reward them with points for them filling roles at our meetings, and the more difficult roles get more points. If there's a type of speech that we really want to encourage, they get a bonus on top of that. And you might be wondering, well, what do you guys do with these points that you're giving out? Every month, the very last Friday of the month, because our club meets on Fridays, that Friday is set aside for our monthly game nights. And during those monthly game nights, members can play a character, like you can think of it like a video game, and they use those points to make that character stronger. So over the course of the year, they are building up themselves and their character. They may not even notice the professional development they're getting because it's all framed in a hobby, fun role play medium, but it's still speaking. It's still making a plan, going into a meeting, delivering a speech, and it's been really successful. I will say that I tried this approach previously in my corporate club, which I am regrettably no longer a member of, and it did not work as well. And the reason it did not work as well, the audience was not as receptive to the idea. We had a smattering of people from all different age ranks, maybe people that were less accustomed to gaming as a hobby. We had faculty members that to them the points didn't feel substantial enough, I suppose. So it didn't work as well in that environment. But for Dungeons and Toast, it has been wonderful. Our club reached President's Distinguished early February this year. Like, we've just been very successful with it.
No, that club is doing phenomenally. And I saw a chat from Charles. He has a similar idea to start a Star Trek club. So it sounds like those types of clubs are on the rise. And I know a year or two ago, we heard just a minute ago, her name was mentioned, and I forgot. Well, passed it together from 100 a year ago. She helped start a Star Wars club. And I see has his virtual hand up. Charles, do you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I was wondering, like, Toastmasters is always encouraging people to go be in different clubs. Is there any way to could have an incentive to do that? Maybe if you're more than, say, two clubs, that have a kind of discount on the third club you join, or something like that. Or some sort of reward that if you're more than one club, you know what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I think the reward is more opportunity to give speeches, more opportunity to meet people, and every club has different personality. But as far as incentive, every club, you pay an international dues, $10 a month. Edie or David, or if you know of any other incentives, but in the past we used to get more magazines. Now we don't get those, but
yeah, you have to. The dues aren't going to change, not because you're a member of multiple clubs.
Yeah, well, it was just a thought anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you for bringing it up. Okay, well, I have a question or two. Oh, before I get on the question, Judy has her virtual hand up.
Yeah, my question is to Lonnie. So once you give out those points, what can members do with the accumulated points?
Sure thing. So we actually have two different pools of points. One type of point is used to make their character avatar, their personal avatar stronger. So maybe they can cast stronger spells. Maybe they can kill stronger monsters. Maybe they learn a new language. It's all virtual. You can think of it like playing pretend when you were a little kid. Maybe you took on the role of someone else and you made up abilities. Well, this system that we use provides a direct translation of points into those abilities. Just like you join Toastmasters and you pick up skills that you didn't even see coming, this is the similar idea. Now, the second form of points that we give out are used to buy magical items. Fake, they're not real items, but they are magical items that strengthen your character. So maybe you buy a big sword that lets you, beat up a dragon better than you did before you had the big sword. So I know it sounds kind of nerdy, probably to some people, but that is what our club members enjoy, and it works really well for them.
No, that's great. I love it. And I'm sure there are ways to adapt it. Every club could adapt it to their needs, but I love the idea of points, and especially if it works for that club. That's great. So my next question, and this is generic question, anybody, and if several want to jump on, feel free to. Having served in a number of positions and area director several times, we've all seen the club that has not been distinguished for many years, and the members could care less. Why is it so important to be distinguished as a club? We're happy. We have our meetings. I come, I give my speeches. I don't really care if my club is distinguished or not. Why does it really matter? And Crystal, thank you. I see your hand up.
Thank you so much for that, Richard. I think as a corporate club, it's the easy sell is we wouldn't do a whole new employee and never give an annual review. This is how we show the club's strength on what it's doing right, and maybe identify some of the pain points of improving things that aren't working for the members. So distinguish is how we show our members we're serving the program that is asked to be served, and we're doing it the way it's to be served. David talked about that meticulous structure. Absolutely. And we keep to that structure even with online members. You start on time, you end on time. You make sure your agenda's full and your roles are filled before you show up. And not only are roles filled, but are those people prepared for the role they're supposed to serve in? When you keep that structure, it will continue to show the progress with your distinguished club because you're following kind of the rules of the playbook. How to set your club up for success and what it's doing well.
Thank you. Thank you, Crystal. And I think I saw David's hand next and then Lonnie's.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. I think one of the key questions you need to ask is these clubs that seem to say, well, we're happy the way we are, everything's fine, do they plan on growing the club? If they have no intention of growing that club, then that's the way it's going to be. There's no motivation to it. But if they want the club to grow, they need to show some incentive in the sense that, or what they are. I mean, nobody wants to go to a restaurant that has an empty, mostly empty seats and nobody's there. They want to see, things happening, things going on. And if you can advertise, if people go online and they look for a club and they poke on a club that says that we were a distinguished club, they may go, well, I don't know what distinguished is, but it sounds impressive, as opposed to a club that has nothing listed on there. So the odds of growing your club are going to be stronger when you do have that distinction that it shows that the club is doing something right. And most people want to belong to that kind of a program. They're not interested just being in any program. They want to be in, if it fits their time slot and for them to be able to do those, they want to know that they're going to be part of a growing and strong team so they can learn from it. And that's the key. That's why they join. They go to a Toastmasters program because they want to get better, primarily at communication skills. And if they see a club that says we're a distinguished club, they'll probably pick that club before they pick the club that says it's not distinguished.
Yeah, thank you, David. And Lonnie?
So I may be typically in the camp of what does it really matter if we are presidents distinguished? However, I will say that I view DCP as more of a barometer of health. if you are doing the things that you should be doing with or without the DCP incentivization, if you have quality meetings, if you are encouraging people to speak regularly, if you are making new people feel supportive, the DCP should come naturally as a result. I have never been in a situation where I have looked at the DCP requirements and said, oh, well, we're not meeting that one. What can we do to meet that one? Instead, if we're not meeting that, there's probably some underlying issue that we should be solving anyway. So if I were looking for a club, I would look at the DCP as a measure of how healthy they are.
Okay, I agree. It's a great measuring stick. I compare it to a measuring stick, and it's just a measuring stick of how well you're meeting the members' needs. So thank you. So the next question is also open to any and all of our panelists. Several years ago, as we all know, Toastmasters introduced a new educational program, Pathways. Some clubs have fought and are still fighting it. Some clubs refuse to give pathway speeches, and other clubs, some are on and then some aren't. So my question for any all who would like to respond, what do you say to those members? They're not giving pathway speeches. And so what do you say to those clubs? They may have no educational goals, or maybe some of the members are giving pathways, but not everyone is. Edie.
Well, I'm going to come from a different direction on this. I will say both my clubs, 407 and the Anaheim Club, are working pathways, and we have been. There was some grumbling early on, especially in the Anaheim Club, because we have some members who are elderly. I just lost one member for different reasons, and another who cannot possibly do pathways. They just don't have the capability of going online, of doing the search, of doing the work, reporting their work. The one that just recently left the club, he was able to get the print version, but you can't do that anymore. And so as VPE, I was able to then go on and help him submit and at least reach a level 2. Finally, we got that for him, but it was such a struggle for years. So what I'm trying to say here, while most of the club is working pathways, we're making progress, there are still going to be some people who just can't do it. All I can see is if they're contributing in other ways to the club, they're still a valuable member. Pathways is not working for everyone, and the board knows it. The executive committee, they know. And so even when we had our legacy program, there were people who wouldn't use their manuals, even though we encouraged it. But they were speaking and they were growing and they were becoming better at the thing they joined the club for. So that's what I'm seeing right now in my clubs. I'm working very hard with everyone else, keeping them getting those awards. But in the real world, not everyone is able to do it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Edie. And David has virtual hand up. David?
Yeah, going along with what Edie mentioned before, the fact that when Pathways first rolled out, obviously it was a bit of a struggle for most people. It was hard to understand, and they've kind of ironed out some of the bugs, and those were difficult to adapt to. Even I struggled with it because I'm not that much into the computers myself. But as district director, I knew that was one of the questions that kept coming up. Pathways this, pathway, I don't like pathways. It's, it was a change. And like anything else in life, change is not always easy to adapt to. And a lot of the old timers like myself, we struggled with it, and there was some reluctancy. And I approached one part of that is to say one group that was reluctant to do so because of their lack of knowledge on computers, things like that. And I kind of laid the ground rules down hard on them as district director at the time. And I explained to him, look I understand your reluctance to want to do it, but I simply asked him, I go, how many at home still have a telephone with a cord attached to it? And no hands came up. And I go, how many of you have one of these things? And most everybody had their hand up. I go, you learned to adapt, didn't you? It's no different now for us. We got to learn to adapt. And I kind of felt I was kind of reluctant how I want to do it, but I said, look, you're seasoned Toastmasters. You can't just throw up your hands and quit. In life, challenges come, things change, and you don't just give up. You learn to adapt, and this is no different. We just need to learn to adapt, and don't be afraid to ask the younger generation how it works. They're more acceptable to it. This is what they grew up with. We grew up with corded machines. They grew up with wireless machines. So we just have to show them our responsibility as older Toastmasters or more seasoned Toastmasters that just because things change, we don't quit, because you're going to set a bad precedent that way. What does it teach a younger generation if you just quit because something changes on you? So I kind of put it on them that way, is that you need to learn that we got to teach these. This is more than just pathways. It's life, the way life works. And we got to share that with them, that even us can adapt and learn. And that's what we want them to do, because things in many years from now, things are going to be different again. And they're going to be in the same boat we're in. Wow, that's not the way I learned how to do it when I was younger. And they're going to have the same struggles we had. So I kind of brought it up that way for that particular group. The middle group, the younger group, they ran with it. They had no problems. And it's slowly just adapting that way. But that's the way I approached it back when it first rolled out.
And some clubs like Dungeons and Toast don't know of any other educational system. And Toastmasters is interesting because every 4 or 5 years, 70–80% of our membership turns over. So in a few years, it's already been a few years, there's only about 20%, like people like David and Edie, myself, who stay on, but the membership comes and goes. So Angel has a comment. Thank you, Angel. Yes.
Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I want to add one thing that I've come across that helps in 3 different areas. It's the 3 common complaints of pathways. And I call it the start with why. Why do you not want to get in pathways? Why are you avoiding it? Because then you can understand what it is. And normally I get 1 of 3 answers. I don't want to deal with tech, or I can't. And in that case, like Edie said, we normally recommend someone in the club who is good with tech. Go on, log in with them, help them put it in, help them get what they're getting out of it, and help them succeed. The second part that I normally get is the I don't understand it, or I'm not here for that. And then we always ask them, well, why are you here? Are you here to grow? Because our program is designed to help you grow. So we try to find how and what their struggles are. And the third one I commonly get a lot is the problem that the path or the assignment doesn't align with what they're doing in life. And that's where we do the make pathways work for you, and basically teach people how to tailor the assignment to what they're doing in life. But I always start with the why, because a lot of the time, if we can't answer or create a solution if we don't know why they're doing it in the first place.
Thank you, Angel. I agree with the why. It has a lot to do with why we're here. So thank you. And Heather had a comment that the pathways was addressed earlier. And if you have any questions about pathways, we do have our pathways guru this year, chair, and that is Rebecca Atkinson. So you can certainly reach out to her. But I felt that was certainly, as so many clubs are struggling still with pathways, that it would be good to address that here, especially as it directly involves Distinguished Club Program. And I've heard a dear friend say that 95% of the clubs that meet their membership goal will be distinguished, but there are some that don't make it because they just don't meet their goals. I have one more question for everyone or anyone that would like to respond to, and that has to do with difficult members. I hope your club has not had this, but sometimes we call them club killers. I've belonged to 1 or 2 clubs that we actually had to invite or ask a member to leave. So my question is, what do you do with a difficult member who just refuses? And this is, again, open to anyone that would like to respond. Difficult members, and how do you deal with them? Because they can be real roadblocks to in terms of membership, keeping membership up, but also in terms of keeping a viable club. And I didn't see who was first, but I'll call on David, and then I think Crystal had her hand up.
Yes, that's something that's, it's very rare that you do have somebody in that regard, but it can happen, and it has happened in the past with Club 2, where we had individuals that were destructive to the club environment itself. And normally it does take a couple of sit-down talk conversations. That's when you're in leadership, if you're one of the officers and you're the club president, well, guess where that falls on? That falls on yourself. You get together with your committee, you guys determine how much of an issue it is. And has it gotten to the point where even after a couple of conversations with the individual, it has not relieved itself, that you need to decide as a club, as a group, that are going to propose the ideas that we may have to ask the person to dismiss themselves from the club. But after a conversation, you need to have a couple of conversations to address the problem, address the issue. And if it still persists, then obviously you will need to take a vote as a club to decide to ask the person to no longer participate in the club itself. I've done it twice in my 40-year career with the club. But it's a delicate procedure. If you're the club officer, that's part of leadership. It's a learning lesson for all to understand how you approach those kind of situations. But again, document what goes on. That's really key. You need to have some documentation, because in the event that there is, somebody could get upset and want to, complain to Toastmasters International, say I got kicked out of a club for no reason. And TI will call you or get a hold of your district director. Your district director may have to have a conversation with you, have that documentation as to why it happened and why the reason for the dismissal from the club. And you should be okay from there.
Thank you, David. And Crystal?
Agree with David wholeheartedly. I think the unique thing about being in the position we are as a corporate club is we don't have the luxury to turn anybody away, but that's where those difficult conversations come in that everybody has to be prepared for and groomed for. How do you take that difficult conversation and create good behavior, though? So again, it's something that we help our boards skill up to, and we're there. Lucas Stidham is one of the other club mentors, if you're familiar. Lucas is the founder of the club. We work hand in hand to do that. We've only had to do it once, and eventually that person did fade away, but I think more than anything, it's an opportunity for the board to learn how to have that difficult conversation. And sometimes we just have to work with difficult people. That's life. If they're killing your club, that's a whole other conversation, but I'm sure everybody here has dealt with somebody difficult in their club. You have to learn how to navigate it and produce the best you can with what you got. Very rarely does it become a circumstance where you have to have somebody walk away, as David was speaking to in his experience. You need to ask them to leave.
Thank you, Crystal. And I would say if it's gotten that point where you are seriously considering, you've already gone through the steps of talking to them, giving them an opportunity, I would call Toastmasters International. In today's litigious society, you don't want somebody going to the board, going to Toastmasters International, complaining. So it's better to let the International know what's going on, first of all. Lonnie and then Edie.
So we actually ran into this situation. We actually anticipated this situation, I should say, in my corporate club specifically, because prior to this point, we had opened the club to everyone. As a corporate club, you kind of have to, right? But we realized that if we ever did have an issue with a particular person, we wouldn't have a lot of recourse to try to eliminate them. So what we made sure to do, upon the advice of Toastmasters International, was implement a policy of actually voting on every new person that came in. And it is just a simple rubber stamp, really, that we put a link in the chat to the Google form that says, yes, I say yes on this person. It's not really a strenuous application process or anything, but by having the fact that they were voted in, that implied that we could also, should the need ever arise, vote them out.
Thank you. And I was going to say that you should vote everyone in. And if you haven't, you can do a blanket voting everyone in, because it technically, International will say if you don't vote everybody in or don't vote somebody in, you can't vote them out. And That is a very important point. I remember one time I knew somebody who was going club to club to club, getting kicked out of a club and then going to another club. And I told them, you vote this person in, you're voting me out. I'm very happy to leave the club, but I know she's a club killer. She's had all these opportunities. And there was another example, David might know this, in a debate club we're members of. We had an individual and he came across way, way too strong. And one of our members said, had I known, if I'd been there when we voted him in, I would have gone against voting him in. So that voting in process, don't overlook it. It's very important. And if you know something about somebody who's coming in, you need to share it. AD, I saw your hand up as well.
Because of the time element, I will pass. I was just going to share a history of something at the Anaheim Club, but it really, it's not enough to support your point. So we'll just move on. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, we have about 15 minutes left, and I would love to get, if our audience members, I know you've had some comments and questions, but the door's open. If you have any questions for any one of our panelists, please raise your virtual hand or your other hand. It's easier to see if you have your virtual hand. All right. I have some additional questions if nobody else does.
I see Charles' hands is up.
Okay, Charles?
How would
Thank
you
you.
encourage people to be judges and counters and stuff like that in competitions, role players?
That sounds like a question
I'm a
for
division director
Lonnie.
this year, so just curious to see how do you do it in America? Encourage people to help with the competitions, like say timer, counters, stuff like that, or judges, more importantly.
So I don't
the
think he
question?
was addressing this specifically about role playing in the tabletop role playing sense. I think what he's asking is how do you encourage people to fill those functionary roles that are necessary to support activities like a contest?
In a competition.
And in our club, at least, we have certificates that we made that are PDFs that are themed, like they have like medieval stuff on them, that we give out to everybody who is a functionary, with the exception of judges, which we do privately, not publicly, because you're supposed to keep those a secret. But everybody gets a certificate of participation. And of course, they also get those points that I mentioned earlier to try to incentivize. And we never have any trouble with people being willing to support contests because they don't want to be asked to go and compete. they would much rather sign up to be a timer than to have to give a speech.
So I have a follow-up question, Lonnie. Do the club officers receive points for serving as club officers?
They do, yes.
Do
For
members
6-month terms.
receive points for competing in contests?
Yes, they do.
We see a lot of clubs that are not represented in contests, so you may really be hitting on something.
Hope so. Yes, and we actually give points if you compete at the club level. You get points, and then if you go on to area and you represent the club, you get more points. And it just at every level that you compete at, you're doing the club a favor by increasing visibility, so it helps us. That's why we grant those rewards.
All right, great. It sounds like you've really hit on something that's working, obviously. And David, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I was trying to maybe clarify Charles's question. Were you referring to the actual contest that goes on in your district?
Yeah, I'm the division director this year, and
Okay.
it's hard to get.
Yeah, okay.
It's hard to get because just saying there's 4 clubs in an area,
Sure.
and then you could have 3 clubs take part in the division contest, and the other club is a weak club, and they don't have anybody to go forward as a judge.
Yeah, you're talking about the common problem, I think, in all districts. In fact, I was just in a conversation earlier this morning with another district representative that had an issue with their particular contest that was on. And it's a challenge across all districts. And I've always questioned, why was it we can't find, if you have a district, a membership of around 1,500 to 2,000 members, why is it so difficult to find 30 people to be judges or functionaries? And oftentimes what happens, I think, is that when contest season rolls around, which is usually the first of the year around January or February, then the emphasis is all about being, getting these contests put together. In reality, just like your district conference, you need to start early. So if you have a district chief judge or somebody who's going to be representing the district as a whole, they need to start beating those bushes early in the year. That, hey, contest season is 6 months away from now, but we need to start getting prepared now. Start looking for people who will be willing to be judges, functionaries, all those different roles. Find those early in the year so that when contest season rolls around, you have a list of all the individuals who have committed to be in the contest. They can't be contestants. That's something you let them know ahead of time. You can't be a contestant if you're going to be one of the functionaries, but we do have a list. You show them a list. We need X amount of judges, X amount of Toastmasters, and sergeant at arms, timers, and all this stuff, and ask them, is there a role that you'd like to fill? So fill that chart early in the year so you're not at the last minute trying to do it just before right when contest season starts. I've seen struggle every year.
See, the main problem is you don't know until the area competition is over, until you know what clubs are going to be represented in the division contest. And
True.
then because like even I just give you a quick example of what happened to me in November. I got a contestant. She was from A club, was Athlone, and then I got a judge who wasn't from Athlone. But then it turns out she was a member of a second club, Toastmasters for Golf, and that judge was a member of that club. And I didn't know it until somebody said it to me. So it's got very tricky now because of dual members that you know where I'm coming from. And can you just say one last thing? During the pandemic, everybody got very lazy because everything was online. I got judges from America, I got judges from Asia, and people got used to doing judging from their home. And now they don't want to travel, say, 4 or 5 hours to a contest.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and unfortunately, though, starting next year, it's all going to be in person, so you're not going to have that option to be able to do that. As far as those functionaries and stuff, I mean, the first contestants are concerned, it's going to change again next year once we get away from the online contest. But again, as I mentioned, obviously, the rule book stipulates what you can or cannot do as far as judges and things like that are concerned versus contestants. So you got to follow the rule book and get familiar with that rule book. So you'll know exactly what's going on. And that's why I say early on, you've got to get those functionaries and people in place, particularly the judges. And if you got enough volunteers, and that's the key, is get more than enough volunteers to fill those roles. In the event that you have a situation where one of the judges happens to be a member of another member in a club, then you can switch them out with another judge. But when you're scrambling to find people, that's when you run into trouble. So have those people in place way ahead of time. If your area contest if you need 5 judges, have 10 people you can draw from, or have 10 judges ready to go. That way, if there is a conflict, you can draw from a different lot or a different person. But early preparation is the key to be able to run a smooth contest and avoid those conflicts.
Okay, thanks. I have another question if you don't mind me asking.
Go ahead.
During the pandemic, the whole of online clubs got started, and like I know some clubs, and they've got members from literally all over the world. Toastmasters for Golf has, I think, members from about 10 different countries, and now that all the competitions are going back in person, I know Toastmasters is putting an extra online competition on this year, but is up to the districts to vote on the international speech competition. It's definitely going to be one of the clubs competitions going ahead, but there's that leaves 4 other competitions: the online competition, the humor speech competition, the topics competition, and what am I forgetting?
Evaluation, humor,
Tall tales.
international, tall tales.
Yeah. Anyway, it's up to the district to vote on what three competitions you're going to have in their district, and I can nearly bet the house. I'd be flabbergasted that if the district getting rid of the humorous speech competition, so I don't think. I think there's any passing lip service to the people online, their online clubs, and I don't know why. That's my personal opinion anyway. Why they don't have a separate online competition for online clubs? And what do you think on it?
Well, the best I can tell you on that is that's going to be what Toastmasters International wants to do. As far as the district is concerned, you can have separate contests of your own. I mean, the international speech contest is the one that is mandated to us. Other ones are optional to the district itself. I know early on when we used to have 2 contests a year, Richard remembers, and Edie remembers, used to have a fall and a spring contest. And when they dropped the fall contest, we go, oh, why? What's going on? We want our contest. And we simply said, well, if you want to have a contest, get it organized and put it together. And ultimately, knowing how much work was involved, they never did. They never brought it up again. So it's, oftentimes you'll feel certain people will say certain things that they want, but when it comes down to reality, when putting it together and they realize how much work it is, it doesn't happen anyway. So sometimes it's just being the fact that things are changing, and whenever there's change, you're always going to have somebody's going to blow off some steam of some sort.
And we've gotten a little bit off topic with contests, but I know it's contest season, and that's pressing to some. And I would say Christopher, right?
Charles.
You can always contact Toastmasters International and voice your concerns. You're a member, you're a division director, and voice your concerns.
Oh, trust me, I've talked to Stephen McGee several times about it.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Charles, I'm sorry, it's Charles. And so that's what I would say to anybody that has concerns.
Richard, I've been called a lot worse than Christopher. Actually, Christopher is my middle name.
Oh, okay.
So you must be a mind reader.
Wow. Okay. Well, we have almost 2:00, and I'm so grateful for all the panelists and sharing their knowledge, their experience. Thank you, Crystal, very much. Thank you for the job you're doing with living spaces. That's so exciting, all the members they've added. And David, thank you for 40 years of experience in Toastmasters. My dear friend Edie, thank you for joining us here today. And Lonnie, thank you for sharing Dungeon and Toast. Wow, what an incredible club. I love the idea with the points, and it's obviously working there. I wanted to respond one more. We have a couple minutes. Edie was talking about low membership. And let's face it, for most clubs, that's going to make or break whether a club's distinguished or not. And a few years ago, as distinguished club, I was the distinguished club chair in just another district, District 12, and they asked me to put together a panel of distinguished club presidents or somebody from the club of clubs that had been distinguished for years and years and years. And I noticed one club that was during the time of COVID when a lot of clubs were struggling. And this one club, I noticed a huge jump in their membership. Other clubs were really struggling, and this club, which had been distinguished, presidents distinguished for years, added, I think, almost like living spaces, 10 to 15 more members. What are you guys doing? It was a corporate, I'm sorry, it was a community club. And they said, well, you know what? We see opportunity. And that's what successful clubs do. They don't look for the difficulties. They look for the opportunities. They were inviting past international presidents, past world champion speakers. They're inviting accredited speakers to their meeting, because nowadays people can attend from all over the world. And yes, they may say no, but you know what? More often than not, they'll say, yes, I'd love to do it. Maybe I can't do it this week, maybe next week or a couple of weeks down the road. They were promoting it and getting fabulous, phenomenal success. So that's something to think about if your club is meeting only online, or even if you're hybrid. Reach out to some of those people, past international presidents. I was just at a division council meeting the other night, and they had a past international president speaking and another past international president in the audience. So it all starts with the ask. Something to all keep in mind. It's 2:00. Thank you for our panelists, and thank you for all of you, the audience members, because without you, we wouldn't have a meeting. And I'll return control to our program quality director and District